Okay, so a brand new One Punch Man chapter just dropped, and to be completely honest, this chapter is not as good as last chapter. I'll be completely honest. This chapter is like a solid 8.5, 9 out of 10. Last chapter was like a good solid 9.5, maybe even 10 out of 10. But I feel like a lot of crazy stuff did happen in this chapter, but there were, a lot of light-hearted moments and a few moments where I was like, it was still alright. Like, this chapter was still really good. But of course, before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new, because if you can't already tell, I post quite a lot of One Punch Man content over here on the channel. So if you like all that stuff, then this place is definitely for you. But of course, let's just get into this video, because this chapter was pretty interesting to say the least. Now, this chapter pretty much starts off with, I guess, all the lower heroes like Mizuki. I'm pretty sure that's her name, and I think this is Atomic Samurai telling everyone to withdraw, and they're going off in this helicopter. And in the next panel, we see basically where we left off in the last chapter with Garou versus Sage Centipede, and we see that Sage Centipede actually takes this new form. Well, not really a new form, I guess this is just like a move that he has, or an ability that he has, where his head turns into like a hybrid of Orochi. Like, kind of, this does remind me a lot of Orochi, but his face turns into like a fire-ish state, and he has claws surrounding it, so it looks pretty cool. But he does say that there's no way a mere human underling could handle these moves meant to strike fear into a god. Now, this could mean many different things. Does this mean Sage Centipede is a god level threat? Probably not, but it does mean that he's probably pretty strong, and I still do stand by the fact that, I do stand by my assumption that Sage Centipede is probably like a high above dragon, so like 70%, maybe 60%, like a mid high above dragon, around that area. But we see that even Garou says he's so strong, and we see that, of course, in the helicopter we see that there's the two little kids that Garou saved, or one of them Garou saved. I'm pretty sure his name is like Tazuko or something, I'm not too sure. I actually forgot his name completely. But we see that Garou does recognize that the little kid that he saved multiple times in previous chapter is in that helicopter, and he says that brat, he managed to get out of there. And I guess this means that Garou does kind of does care for this little kid, which again just shows that Garou does still have some humanity in him. But then moving on, we see that, of course, Sage Centipede is talking about the helicopter, and he says, is that fly bothering you? And then, of course, Garou says in a little bit of comedic way, like he says, no idea what you mean, because obviously he doesn't want Elder Centipede to strike down the helicopter. And then, Sage Centipede then threatens Garou that if you dare move another inch, my compatriot, which, he's talking about Evil Ocean Water, will swat that fly down with its Ocean Grand Canyon. And then we see that, obviously, I guess this is kind of a new revelation or something new that got revealed, that Evil Ocean Water and Sage Centipede are working together, which I guess does make sense, because they're both monsters. But moving on, we see that Garou goes in for a punch and Sage Centipede goes in for a Centipede Grand March. And then we see that Evil Ocean Water then doubles down with an Ocean Grand Canyon, and we see that this does send Garou flying back, which means that these two are obviously very much stronger than Garou. And Garou right now is probably around like a mid above dragon, maybe like 40%, 50% above dragon, making him mid. And of course we see that Sage Centipede is very amused by Garou taking this damage and says, haha, where's that bravado of yours now? And then we see that Sage Centipede is looking at a stream of water that is going towards Evil Ocean Water, and we see that this is actually Saitama running across the water. And we see that Saitama goes in for a killer move, Serious Series. Now this really did surprise me, because I wasn't expecting Saitama to use a serious move here, but then he uses a serious punch on Evil Ocean Water and completely demolishes him, and this essentially kills him in the process. And in my last video, which is my prediction video, I did say that we will probably see like a double spread panel of Saitama just straight up destroying Evil Ocean Water, and lo and behold, we did get that. So I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I did get it right here. But moving on, we see that obviously Sage Centipede is completely surprised by this. And of course, Saitama says, man, I'm sick of all this splashing around. Do it somewhere else. And of course, this is classic, nonchalant Saitama here. And then we see that the sailors, or I guess the Navy force or whatever, are on the ship and saying, oh damn, we can't steer. And they realize that Saitama is out on the deck, and obviously they are surprised that Saitama is even alive, since evil ocean water is devastating. But now we see that Saitama is here, and he's planted his feet inside of the ship and is like, is this what it feels like to go surfing? And of course we see this crazy panel of the tiny ship in comparison to evil ocean water's body being completely destroyed. And then we turn to Sage Centipede, pretty much confirming that evil ocean water is dead. And then we see Garou try to go in to hit Sage Centipede, but then we see that Metal Bat comes in and goes in with a dragon thrashing, and he doesn't seem like he did anything to Sage Centipede here. But the fact that Metal Bat did come back does kind of confirm that statement from Murata that says, or was it Murata or One that said that if Metal Bat was to be in the Monster Association on the surface in the webcomic, he would have made a huge difference. And I guess that's what's coming to fruition in this chapter, or in this next couple of chapters, because Metal Bat is gonna be here for longer. But then we see that Metal Bat lands and is like, you're Garou, because Metal Bat obviously recognizes Garou despite his new appearance. And then he says, Hero Hunter Garou, so you're gonna get in my way again. And of course we know that this isn't Garou's intention. And of course Garou says now's not the time, and goes into Sage Centipede and tries to hit him. And then of course Metal Bat is running after him, because Metal Bat thinks Garou is still, I guess Garou is still how he was before, but right now Garou is prioritizing, the little kids on the flipping the helicopters at the moment. So Garou is not thinking about fighting Metal Bat. But then we see that, obviously Sage Centipede goes in to hit the helicopter, and Metal Bat deflects this. Now, Metal Bat right now in this chapter is showing some pretty crazy feats, to be honest. I don't think Metal Bat is no longer like a low dragon. I feel like Metal Bat is now like a high dragon, maybe even. I feel like he's maybe like a high dragon at this point, maybe like 70% high dragon, maybe even higher than this. And we see that Garou is he's in the helicopter, and he's telling the guys in the helicopter to go away. And then we see that Garou goes in on Sage Centipede and hits him in the head, and Garou is just completely leaping around on Sage Centipede and causing multiple hits on him. And we see that these guys then go down to the surface and kind of fall back, and there's this little panel of them talking to each other, and Metal Bat and Garou in this situation are pretty much confirming that they're going to work together to try and take down Sage Centipede. And then we see that these guys start having a little bit of a comedic moment, and after this we see that Garou isn't completely a monster at this point. Garou still does care about the little kid, and this chapter just kind of confirms that. And at the end of the chapter we see that Shiryu and his sister are in the hospital, and they're watching Garou and Metal Bat and Sage Centipede fighting off against each other, and Shiryu is saying he doesn't really feel any killing intent from Garou, and that is where the chapter ends. Now, this chapter was very interesting, and as you guys know, after I do a breakdown video, I always make 2 separate videos about this chapter just dedicated to it. And of course I'm gonna do that again in this situation, but I just want to say there are a lot of things to talk about. Saitama's serious punch, to be honest, Saitama and the evil natural water scene, I expected it to be a bit more a bit more epic, but it was still pretty good. It was still pretty amazing. And of course Metal Bat and Garou working together, all of that I'm going to talk about in a different video. But of course, if you like the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And apart from that, I will see you in my next